using the I word, talking impeachment. Impeachment begins in the House of Representatives. Right. Is it realistic to have a discussion about impeachment with Republicans who are backing Trump up to the hilt and getting what they want with him there? Is it realistic for liberals, for Democrats to be talking about impeachment right now?
Impeachment, again, I served on many years on the Ethics Committee in the Congress, and any of these kinds of issues depend on one thing, the facts and the law, and in the House, the rules of the House, but the facts and the law. And it's really important for us to have an independent outside commission to look into all of this. We have a special counsel within the Justice Department reporting to Trump appointees. It's good that we have the counsel, don't get me wrong, I'm fully supportive and respectful of that, but it's within the Justice Department. Within the Republican Congress, we have the Senate and House investigations in the Intelligence Committee, now perhaps Judiciary as well in the Senate, and that's important too, but we can only go as fast as the slowest ship, which is the willingness of the Republicans to issue subpoenas. But there seems to be some bipartisanship as we're going there, and that's good. What we need, that's inside the Congress, inside the Justice Department. What we need is an outside, independent commission to review the facts so that the American people know whatever happened, we know one thing for sure. The Republicans are not willing to see the president's tax returns, to vote for an outside commission. Why are they hesitant to just find the facts? Let the American people know the truth. So here's the thing. We do know for a fact that the Russians hacked, probably altered, leaked, disrupted our system, and more. They could do it again. They're doing it in other countries. The American people have it right. The integrity of our democracy is something that is part of the Constitution that we take an oath to protect and defend. We have to have the facts if it would ever lead to an impeachment. Now, in a Republican Congress, I don't think it would be, I think the president would have to cross certain lines in terms of breaking the law before they would move to that. But if you don't have the facts, now we have lots of dots. If we could have the outside, it could be just exculpatory. It could say this came very close, this, that. But we need the facts. You just can't impeach because you don't like somebody's attitude or something. It has to be based on the facts. But there is, now, I myself am part of a suit on the emoluments. This was so important to our founders that they put it in the Constitution of the United States that a president, an elected official, none of us can accept a gift from a foreign government unless the Congress said they could. So some of my members are tempted to say, let's put up a bill that says the president can accept gifts from foreign governments and see who votes for that.
It'd probably get a lot of votes. Okay, so first question from an audience member here. Should President Obama have done more once he found out about the Russian interference in the election, in your view? Yeah. You worked very closely with President Obama. Well,
what they knew, when they knew it, in terms of all of this, is something that I think we'll learn more about. They made a judgment. No, I knew at the Democratic Convention in July in Philadelphia, the first day I spoke at the big breakfast they have, the Christian Science Monitor breakfast, big deal. All the press. And I said to them, this is a fact. The Republicans won't admit to this, but this is a fact. The Russians have hacked our system. I don't know that from classified information, or else I wouldn't be able to share it with you. I know it because I had to spend money to find out who was hacking our system. That was then. It took until about October before all of the elements of the government, of intelligence, except the FBI, made a statement that this was the fact. I just don't know enough about why a decision was made one way or another, but I think that the president would probably have something to say about that. But it is, it isn't as if nobody knew. I don't know what the president could have done about it. Mm-hmm. We, the four of us, McConnell, and then Harry, Reid, Pelosi, and Ryan, sent a letter to all of the state jurisdictions. In some states, it's the Secretary of State, other jurisdictions, saying we have all of this information, all of this capability available to help you protect your system. The Republicans wouldn't go so far as to declare it what we call critical infrastructure. They just didn't want us to do that. Mm-hmm. The administration of President Obama did declare it critical infrastructure. So they did some things, but clearly we want some more answers about that.
Someone in the audience would like to know, have you met with Donald Trump since he's been elected? And if so, what was your impressions of him?
Don't tell anybody I told you this. We're in your living room, right? It's just us. So we go to the first meeting with the president. This is historic. House and Senate, Democratic and Republican leadership to meet with the new president of the United States. This is a big deal. I went to this meeting with President George W. Bush. I went to this meeting with Barack Obama twice. Now we're with the new president of the United States. So usually that meeting would be in the cabinet room or in the Oval. It was in the East Wing because he wanted to have like a little hospitality. Pigs in blankets and kosher meatballs. But that, you know, first he charms, right? So in any event, bless him for his warmth and hospitality. So we sit down finally at the table. President of the United States. House and Senate, top leadership. You know I won the popular vote. What? What? First words out of his mouth. You know I won the popular vote. Now, I'm a very courteous person, and I get criticized sometimes for curbing some of my enthusiasms, but in the interest of respecting people who voted for people who are in these offices. But I thought, well, you know, he seems a little casual about this, so I'll be a little casual about it, too. And I said, Mr. President, that isn't true. And there's no evidence, fact, or data to support what you are saying. Oh, yeah, 3 to 5 million people voted illegally. I said, well, it's simply not true. You can't support that. Then he says, and I'm not even counting California. So I said, well, here's my thing. I look forward to working with you on infrastructure and tax reform and other subjects. But when I've worked with President Bush and we got many things accomplished, and I'll tell you what they are if you want to hear. I told him about the biggest energy bill in our history of our country, the emissions cafe standards, like taking millions of cars off the road, all that. But I'm even working with the Republicans, we have our disagreements, but at least we agree to a set of facts. We stipulate whether it's a budget number or just a set of facts as to how we will then negotiate. So if you're not going to stipulate to a fact, it's really going to be very hard for us to come to terms.
Yeah.
Well, and he said, well, infrastructure, we can work together on infrastructure. Then he turns, well, I won't go into the rest of the conversation because it involved other people. But then the Republicans, for some reason, I don't know, they went out and said to the press, the president said he won the popular vote. You would think they might, you know, keep that like a family secret. I mean, we don't even talk politics in the White House. You keep to a minimum any political references, even, as I say, under the dome. So then he go and tell the press that. So then when Chuck went out, I left early because we had votes in the House side, and I excused myself. the senators didn't have a vote, and the speaker doesn't vote. So I was one that left early. So anyway, when I get to the Capitol, after all this happens, well, Chuck goes out next, and the press say to him, the president, the Republicans said and he said, yeah, Nancy said it wasn't true. So he gave me my out. Now I could talk about what, and when the press asked me, what did you think? And I said, what I thought was, here he is, the President of the United States. Why so insecure? And I prayed for him. But more importantly, I prayed for the United States of America. It's funny.
So back on the subject of health care, and this is a question I hear frequently, especially in social media. Why can't the Democrats, this questioner wants to know, put forward a solid single-payer health care plan as a way to counteract the terrible Republican plan?
Well, as I've said, I've been carrying signs for single-payer long before I was in Congress and before many of the people advocating for single-payer were born. I mean, this is an idea that if we had a tabula rasa, if we were just starting clean, would be the most cost-effective way to go forward. We don't have that. Overwhelmingly, over 120-some, 50 million probably people in our country have employer-based access to their health coverage and insurance. But here's what I say, because again, I come from that advocacy. And as a former chair of the party, I've always been dissatisfied what happens with our elected officials. I mean, it's never enough. But we put a public option in our House bill, which survived this House-Senate process. We put it in there, and states can take up a public option, which they could grow into anything in their state. Single payer, for example, in California, passed one House there, the Senate, and it would cost $400 billion. And more than half of that money would come, if they could even get the other half, more than one half of that money would come from the Affordable Care Act, which pours in over $200 million a year into big states. New York gets a ton of money from the Affordable Care Act. So right now, I'm going to be crude, because now we're in my living room, so I can be crude. It isn't helpful to tinkle all over the Affordable Care Act right now. Right now, we have to support the Affordable Care Act and defeat what the Republicans are doing. The path to public option single payer is in the Affordable Care Act. It is not in distracting us from the focus of stopping what they are doing to let people die. People will die. Make America sick again with their bill. So that is what the fight is right now. So I just plead with people to say, God bless you for that. Keep it up. And we had, by the way, in our initiatives when we were putting this bill together, but you could buy into Medicare 55 and over. Lost by one vote in the Senate.
Joe Lieberman?
I'm not naming any names.
I did it for you.
So, all these folks who are saying, why can't we do that? And, in the Senate who are saying that, I'm like, well, we were going down that path before. Yep. But it is, even though we didn't get single payer, please know this. Many of the features of the Affordable Care Act, of single payer, are contained in the Affordable Care Act. Our essential benefit package are all the guarantees, and states can, the Secretary and others can do more, but they must do the essential package. In the Republican bills, House and Senate, they're making that discretionary. It's like Pontius Pilate. They don't want to vote in the Senate to say, we destroyed it. They're saying we're passing it on to the states to decide. So some of these states we live in, you might want to move. Yeah. But it is, it's just like, they know it's bad. They don't want to have the full responsibility for it, so they pass it on.
Well, I'm wondering, though, given that